My girlfriend said I disgusted her after she saw me during a diabetic emergency. The glucose monitor on my wrist buzzed at 3:47 a.m., pulling me from shallow sleep. I fumbled for my phone on the nightstand, squinting at the screen through the haze. Blood sugar, 41 mg DL. The number glowed red, urgent. My hands were already trembling. I reached for the juice box I kept on my side of the bed, but my fingers wouldn't cooperate. The small cardboard container tumbled to the floor, rolling under the bed frame. I tried to call out to Vanessa, but my tongue felt thick, unresponsive. The room tilted sideways. Vanessa stirred beside me, her dark hair spread across the pillow. I managed to tap her shoulder, my hand moving in slow motion. She opened her eyes, annoyed at first, then alarmed when she saw my face. I must have looked bad because she sat up fast, reaching for her phone instead of the emergency glucose tablets in the drawer. She was recording. My body started convulsing, those uncontrollable tremors that come with severe hypoglycemia. Sweat soaked through my shirt. I heard myself making sounds I didn't recognize, guttural and inhuman. She kept filming. Her face above the phone showed something I'd never seen before, a mixture of fascination and revulsion. She wasn't moving to help me. The glucose tablets were right there in the nightstand drawer, 18 inches from her free hand. I'd shown her a dozen times where I kept emergency supplies. We'd been together for 8 months. She knew about my type 1 diabetes from our second date. I'd explained the risks, the protocols, what to do if this happened. But she just held that phone steady, her hand not shaking at all while mine jerked uselessly against the mattress. The last thing I saw before losing consciousness was her thumb moving across the screen, probably adjusting the focus. I woke up in the hospital with an IV in my arm and my older brother Derek sitting in the plastic chair beside the bed. My head felt like someone had filled it with concrete and broken glass. Derek looked exhausted, his security guard uniform wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. He explained that Vanessa had called 911 eventually, after I'd been seizing for several minutes. The paramedics found me unconscious with a blood sugar of 28. Another 5 minutes and I might have suffered permanent brain damage or died. Derek had driven straight from his overnight shift when the hospital called him as my emergency contact. Vanessa showed up around noon, carrying coffee and wearing makeup that looked freshly applied. She kissed my forehead and asked how I was feeling, her voice dripping with concern that felt performative. Derek excused himself to get food from the cafeteria, but I caught the look he gave her before leaving. Vanessa sat on the edge of the hospital bed and took my hand, but her grip felt wrong, too light, like she was touching something contaminated. She started talking about how scary it was, how traumatic for her to watch me like that, how she hadn't slept all night from the stress. I asked her why she didn't give me the glucose tablets. The question came out quiet, not accusatory, just genuinely confused. She let go of my hand and stood up, walking to the window. She said she panicked, that she'd never seen anything like that before, that my face looked wrong and my body was doing things that frightened her. I reminded her we'd discussed this exact scenario multiple times. She turned around and her expression had shifted into something defensive and sharp. She said I didn't understand what it was like to witness someone you love turning into something else, something disturbing and uncontrollable. The word she used was disturbing, not the emergency itself, but me during it. Derek came back with sandwiches and the conversation stopped. Vanessa stayed for another hour, scrolling through her phone mostly, occasionally looking up to smile at me in that strange, detached way. When she left, she kissed me goodbye on the cheek instead of the lips. Derek waited until her footsteps faded down the hallway before asking if I was okay. I told him about the glucose tablets, about her filming instead of helping. His jaw tightened, but he didn't say anything, just nodded slowly. He stayed with me until the doctors discharged me that evening, driving me back to the apartment Vanessa and I shared in his beat-up truck. The apartment felt different when we walked in. Vanessa was curled up on the couch watching some reality show, and she barely looked up when we entered. Over the next week, Vanessa became distant in ways I couldn't quite articulate. She stopped sleeping pressed against me, maintaining a gap of several inches in our bed. She flinched slightly when I tested my blood sugar at the dinner table. She started spending more time at her friend Colette's apartment, coming home late smelling like wine and expensive perfume. When I tried to talk about it, she said I was being paranoid and clingy, that she needed space after the trauma of watching my medical emergency. She made it sound like I'd done something to her, like my diabetic crisis was a personal attack. I found the video on Thursday night. Vanessa had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter, and when I closed it, I accidentally woke the screen. Her Instagram was up, and what I saw in her drafts folder made my stomach drop. Full story is linked below or on my channel.